Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a pretty entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy, he is 36 years old, and he's going to share his story, how he went from the complete clueless, hopeless romantic nice guy to being born again hard after going through some very tough experiences. You're going to see that this starts off about 20 years ago when he was in high school and bought into all the romantic BS, even though his father, who was very much a lot like me actually, was telling him in reality, he didn't want to hear it because he knew better, as most teenagers do. And eventually rushes into a first marriage, and guess what his wife wanted to do after they got married? Have an open marriage. And let's just say it didn't go too well. But eventually, he has a major comeback. And then later in life, when he's presented with similar situations, he handles it like a boss. It'll be a very good one to go over here, guys, to share multiple fronts. How, for you young guys out there, you got to listen to the guys that have been around the block ahead of you. Your fathers, your uncles. As long as they offer good information, you don't want them to be a bunch of nice guys that tell you stupid things to do. The guys that actually know what they're talking about, you need to listen to them. You don't know everything. And there's always something new to learn from somebody that's older, more experienced. And how you can't buy into that nonsense of the movies. The whole romantic crap, it's bullshit. Or that the gals are all princesses and treat them like princesses, sugar and spice and everything nice. It's nonsense. The guys that act that way and act like the typical nice guys get eaten alive. You need to be strong and stand up for yourself, stand up for what you want, do what's best for you, because if you don't, you're going to be taken fully advantage of. And there are gals that will. And of course, how open marriages, open relationships are a disaster. And the second a girl brings that up, it is over. As much as you are in love with them, it's over. Because guess what? They sure as hell don't love you. And I might add, when a guy rushes into a relationship, getting exclusive, he says the I love yous first, rushes into a proposal, marriage, all that, that gives the girl certainty that I got this guy wrapped around my finger and I can pull bullshit because he ain't going to go away. You think I'm wrong? You'll see here in this story. And finally, again, how a guy can go through hell, but if he learns, he can turn his life around and be kicking butt down the road. And nobody's going to mess with him when he crosses that point. And that's what we're going to have with our guy here. So, guys, it's a longer story, as you can see. Good one for the early evening here. So definitely, if you're driving home, this is a good one for the way home. Or you got home now, crack open a beer or a soda, whatever the hell you drink, a lemonade, popcorn, pizza, whatever, because this is definitely one you guys will enjoy and seeing. And get your hands ready, because there's gonna be a lot of smacks going on to this guy in the first the first half of this story. And the second half, he'll definitely earn a beer. So he says, SSM, my brother from another mother. To keep a little privacy, you can call me Alan. I wouldn't have an issue with sharing the real names for everyone involved, but I'm not sure of the legal ramifications. Yeah, always best to use different names, guys. Different names, different locations, that type of thing. Keep it, vague. Actually, let me rephrase that. Just everything's different. I've been watching your videos for a while now, and I can see that I still have a lot to learn. But I am catching up. It's not that I haven't had other influences in my life giving me good advice, but it's nice to see other people reaffirming the lessons my dad taught me growing up, even though I didn't listen to him at first. I hope you'll find my experience beneficial for other guys out there, and the most humbling lesson I've learned along the way is that my dad was right, even when I was too proud or stupid to listen. Bro, we've all been there. My dad, my uncle, other elders told me things when I was younger, and of course I knew better. What teenager doesn't seem to know better than his father or parents or loved one or elders, anything like that? This is how we learn. It says here, he warned me early on and gave me important lessons as I was growing up that I ignored because I thought I had life all figured out, and like most young men, I thought I was smarter than my dad. As it turns out, the old dog still has some lessons to teach. You're darn right, but I respect that you now recognize, obviously, that you were wrong. That shows maturity and growing up. I want to send in my 2 experiences with open relationships. Oh, and I'm sure they were wonderful. I'll get right to my mistake and the lessons I've learned. I know that a lot of your videos are on serious and even heartbreaking situations, but I wanted to share my story in hopes to lighten the mood a little bit. I fully acknowledge my own stupidity early on, but my latest experience has given me and my bros countless hours of laughter. I'm certain that there are probably a lot of people that will consider me a complete a-hole for what I did, but I have no shame in sharing my experiences that covered the last 14 years of my life. Bro, very unlikely with this group here. If you find anything useful for your content, feel free to use it however you see fit. And if not, just know that there are a lot of guys out there like me that appreciate your work that you do, so thank you. It says, growing up, I never knew what it was like to live in an intact family. My mom and dad, whom I love and respect, were never married. But both of them co-parented well, and from my perspective, gave me a great childhood. Isn't that amazing? They weren't actually technically married, but you had a great thing growing up. Isn't that interesting? Nothing will ruin a relationship like marriage. I wonder if they were married, would have been the same dynamic. They were both 19 years old when I was born, so I can only assume that they were hooking up and she ended up pregnant. Probably, bro. As far as I know, there was never been animosity between them, and they worked well together to ensure that I had everything I needed. I didn't think they'd ever hooked up after I was born, but I had my suspicions. Oh, okay, my bad. They raised you apart. They weren't together raising you. From my late teens to my mid-20s, I really thought that I had life all figured out and didn't pay attention to the wisdom my dad tried to share throughout my childhood and my early adulthood. Honestly, I think that most people go through that stage when they believe they know more than their parents. Yeah, most people do. I did the same bullshit when I was a teenager, and I was sorely mistaken. My most vivid memory of the first lesson I can remember my dad sharing with me was when I was in my very first adolescent relationship at 15 years old. First loves are powerful, and I can remember talking about her with my dad, and at the time, I thought it was just an offhanded statement, but I understand now. I told him how much I liked her and was in love. While laughing, he told me to never trust anyone completely who can bleed from a mouth and not die. I remember my first love, guys, and my heart was ripped out too. And when my heart was ripped out and she dumped me, my dad said to me, he goes, "You're 16, you should have lots of girlfriends." But no, I wanted her. I wanted love and all that bullshit. Yeah, I told you guys that I was the simp nice guy back in the day. I had to learn the hard way. My dad told me, have lots of girlfriends. You're in high school, for goodness sake. Stop getting all bent out of shape over one chick. Nope, I didn't listen. Like I said, there's a lot to the SSM origin stories. I could do a many-part series on what got me to this point. I thought he was joking. I was heartbroken when that relationship ended, when she broke up with me out of the blue one day. We dated for about 4 months, and I was so in love with her that when she ended our relationship with an email and was dating another guy 2 days later, I was devastated. That was the first time I ever had a beer, and it was with my dad. He dropped some more wisdom on me, but I wasn't mature enough to understand what he was saying. He told me that every beautiful woman you meet is now or has been another man's pain in the ass. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I get it now. Man, your dad's cool. Your dad, shit, I'd want to sit down and have a beer with your dad. It was at the end of my third year of college when I met the woman that would become my first and only wife. I was 21 years old, nearly 22 when we met. After all the time that passed, I can still remember how much I loved her. I was barely an adult at the time, but young love is powerful. For the story, we will call her Mandy, and she was 21. We dated exclusively, I thought, for the last 2 years of school, and married at 24 after our graduation and at getting jobs in the same city. Smack! Married at 24? Are you out of your damn mind? What did your dad say then? I'm sure your dad probably wanted to smack you too. What was the rush? But let me guess, it was true love. Well, you're about to see what true love is in Mandy's view. We had a great circle of friends and were living together immediately after graduation. My mom said that she seemed nice, but told me that I was moving too quickly with marriage. Well, I normally say don't listen to women when it comes to relationships, but in this situation, your mom was right. My dad was of the same opinion, but much more blunt. He called me an idiot. Of course, I was smarter than my parents, and went ahead with the engagement thinking that they didn't understand that the world was different than it was when they were my age. I said the same shit to my parents. Things are different now, you know. Oh, okay, Mr. Know-It-All. I was so convinced that she was the one that I'd ignore my parents' warnings. They talked to me several more times to see if I was sure about my decision, and in my righteous indignation, I went through with the wedding just to show everyone that I was right and they were wrong. You know what they say about karma and pride. We were married when we were 24 years old, and I just knew that I made the right decision. It was the happiest time of my life. You sure about that, amigo? It was after being married and happy, I thought, for almost 8 months when Mandy told me that she loved me, but Wait for it. She wanted to try an open relationship because she thought that we were both too young to give unexperiencing life. Didn't your mom and dad tell you that you're rushing things a little too quickly? I think so. Sorry that happened, but man, that's at the moment when you say, get the fuck out of here, Mandy. Unfortunately, that's not how this whole thing goes. So this was, you were 24, so this is about 12 years ago. So we're looking at 2011, 2012, something like that. So things really started kicking into the crazy gear about 8 years ago, when Mr. T was elected president. I can still remember the feelings of shock, betrayal, and hurt that I felt at the time, and initially I told her no. Okay, I'm glad you did that at least. I had no idea what to do or how to feel about everything, and there wasn't a lot of information on open relationships. One evening in mid-April, she told me that if I didn't agree to open the marriage, that she was going to file for divorce. I can still remember how lost and confused I felt. I bet, man, I bet you felt like your heart was ripped out. You're thinking, we were in love. I thought she was so amazing. Blah, 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 blah. And she's an awful person. Now, what do you think gave her the confidence to pull stunt like this? I'll tell you what. The fact that you married her so young, the fact that you rushed to marry her, that type of thing, and didn't listen to anybody, that showed her that she had you. When guys rush into relationships, rush to move things along, rush with the I love yous, rush with all that shit, don't make the girl work hard to get them. This is the shit that happens. I'm sure you were doing plenty of other things that showed her absolutely the power was within her hands in the relationship, but if we're honest here, I'm sure you did. But there you go. Does this mean that every single gal is going to pull a stunt like Mandy? No. But I was completely embarrassed and had too much pride to talk to my parents, and there was no way that I was going to bring my friends into it. As embarrassing as it is to admit what I did, I think it's a useful learning tool for other guys. After several more discussions with Mandy, professing her undying love for me, but that she needed the freedom to have new experiences, I agree. Smack, smack, smack. Jackass. I know you know this, but you needed it. And I can't imagine what your dad would do in that moment if he knew. There'd be a whole lot of smacks. Your dad and I would take turns whipping your ass. Yeah, she loves you so much. The experiences. Oh my God. She knew you weren't going anywhere. She had your number, my man. We set up some basic rules. Rules, huh? Sure. Nobody we both knew, always use protection, no overnight stays with the affair partners, and no discussions of intimate experiences with other people. I can still remember how broken I was feeling at the time, but I couldn't accept that my marriage didn't even last 1 year. My mom might have been sympathetic, but my dad would roast me for dinner. And you know what? Yeah, you needed it. Guys need that. That's why I tell these stories, and I tell guys they're acting like boneheads, and I smack them upside the head here in this channel because guys need that. The their mom version of handling things just doesn't work with guys. It's just, it is what it is. Like football coaches and basketball coaches got to yell at their players. They're being dumbasses. That's how we are. The drill instructor has to yell at us when we're fucking up, in the boot camp. That's how we are. That's what we respond to. You needed that. It would have done you a lot of good back then. You probably wouldn't have gone through all what you're going to go through here. Mandy was already going out in 2 days. Imagine that. Oh, and by the way, if it wasn't obvious, guys, as you all know, if someone brings up open relationship, that means she already has someone or someone, multiple ones in mind, or she's already doing it. And she obviously doesn't give a shit about you. But she also probably figures, this guy is going to be hooking up with other girls because he's so in love with me that he wouldn't want to. So she has no competition. I was still trying to figure out what the hell happened, and she was already going to get laid. I spent most of the evening over the hopper with dry heaves. After her first night out, she came back home a little past 1 a.m., and she could see that I was angry, and she tried to calm me down by initiating intimacy with me. Oh yeah, I want to hook up with you, wife, after you were out sucking somebody's, what. The only thing going through my mind was that just hours before she was intimate with another guy, and now she's trying to sleep with me. She was pissed when I rejected her and slept on the couch. Oh, poor baby. Over the following 4 months, I couldn't bring myself to touch her. She was going out a few times a week, and from what I could tell, was having a fantastic time. Of course she was. She's got you at home. She got to have her wedding and her magical day, and she has a husband who no doubt is providing and paying for the bills, and she gets to go ride the carousel. Of course she's having a fantastic time, and she doesn't have to worry about you leaving. At least that's what she thought. I was so embarrassed and humiliated that I didn't feel like I could talk to anyone about what was going on. It was after a few months of the open relationship when Mandy actually yelled at me because I refused to touch her. Yeah, she has some nerve. She said I was jealous because she was having fun and nobody else wanted me. I don't think I ever felt so worthless in my entire life, and she was digging in the knife and twisting it every chance she got. Well, what have I told you guys about women and men with weakness? When women see weakness, it turns them off. And when guys keep acting weak, many times they become so repelled by it that they just want to dump the salt in the wound and twist the knife. They're so disgusted by weak men. You were acting weak, and I understand that you were heartbroken, fair enough. But we all know you should have kicked her to the curb the second she brought that up. Or at least after she came home with somebody's dick in her mouth. Or the smell of somebody's dick in her mouth. But you stayed around. Of course you didn't want to touch her. Nobody would blame you there. I stupidly put up with it, and that only made things worse. Smack. Should have smacked you about 19 times already, but yeah. I just wasn't sitting at home waiting for my wife to come back to me after she got her back broken by some other guy. I was going to bars, talking to other women, but as soon as they found out I was married, they didn't want anything to do with me, regardless of being in an open marriage. Shocker. Guys have no problem hooking up with her. That's because, let's be honest, we're pigs. I ended up confessing everything to my dad, and wait for it, gentlemen, and he literally punched me in the face and spent an hour yelling at me for being a spineless bitch and questioning if I actually was his son. Whew. That had to hurt, man, but you know what? I wouldn't have punched you. I would have smacked you upside the head, but I wouldn't have punched you. You had to hear it. He told you everything you knew, but you had to hear it. And watch how the healing begins after a meeting with Dad. I can still remember how indignant I was and thinking that he didn't understand. I have no idea how I believed that at the time, and I feel like a complete idiot. It was a little more than 6 months into our new relationship when Mandy told me after work one day that she wanted to get a divorce because she was in love with someone else. Never saw that one coming. As shameful as it is, I begged her to close our marriage and focus on rebuilding our relationship. Smack, 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 jackass. What? Because it's been so wonderful? Because she's been so loving and kind and all that? A big part of it, I guarantee, you just want to show your dad. I still have no idea why I did it. You were desperate, you were heartbroken, you were under her spell. From what I could tell, she's been with at least 17 other guys in 6 months. I assure you that number was more. Our marriage was open, and I never had even one date. But there I was begging to have her stay with me. And he says, smack, 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 and holy hell smack. Yeah, you know. Our marriage was finally dissolved a few months later. Praise Jesus. Was that her idea or yours? Thankfully, she just wanted out, and we separated, each taking with us what we brought into the marriage. It took me a long time to get over everything, and I didn't date at all from 26 to 31. Wow. The last I heard about Mandy was that she married the other guy, and they lasted for a few years before divorcing. Shocker. Most of my time was focused on my job, and that was when I met my best friend. I'll call him Tony. He's the one that got me out of my little bubble and back to living. That's what bros are for. I was 28 when we started hanging out. How can I describe Tony? Try to imagine a 5'8" Italian-American who behaves like he's 10 feet tall and bulletproof energy of a tornado. Yes, I've known a few guys of that description. More importantly, he does what he wants, when he wants, and doesn't care what anybody thinks. In other words, he has pussy falling from the trees in front of him. He's the happiest guy I've ever met, and that was when I knew I wanted to be friends with him because I wanted to feel the same way. My confidence was still pretty low. We started hanging out, and initially I was shocked at how he treated women. He was blunt and sometimes completely rude and dismissive, but they kept coming back to him. It didn't make any sense to me. It was like the more rude he was, the harder they tried to get his attention. Yes, I'm sitting here with that look on my face. Exactly. I asked him why he treated them that way, and he smiled and gave me my first look into a brand new world. He said they wanted to be treated that way or they wouldn't put up with it. It didn't make any sense to me. Bro, it doesn't make sense. It absolutely makes no sense. So when you hear the gals, your sisters, your female cousins, girls you're friends with, acquainted with, whatever, say, I just want a nice guy. Okay, yeah, sure. Look at their dating history. Look at who the guys they chase after. Are they that nice? I was still being considerate and treating the women I met like ladies. At most, I got 2 to 3 dates and then ghosted, while Tony had a regular rotation of at least 5 women that I knew of. I knew that whatever I was doing wasn't working, but I also knew that there was too much of a nice guy in me to go rogue like Tony. Incorrect. Plenty of guys have been the nice guy until they've been pushed too far, and they often go to the dark side. Now, I don't want guys to go to the dark side, but I definitely want guys to see reality and wake up. And I think a lot of guys have by watching this channel here. And yes, you have it in you. Unlike Tony, I've never been into the hookup culture. Besides, dealing with one woman is hard and expensive enough. I agree with that. You can be like Tony, doesn't mean you have to have 5 girls here. I mean, I'm surprised Tony can walk. I wanted a girlfriend, but there was no chance I was ever getting married again. Well, good for you. The most important change I made was to stop putting them on a, wait for it, pedestal, and treating them like princesses. Instead, they were more like a utility that I could do with or without, and that seemed to be the missing ingredient. Before, I would drop what I was doing to spend time with them. Now I live my life, and if they want to tag along for the ride, great. If not, no skin off my back. Yes, there you go. You're living your life, doing what makes you happy, just like Tony does, obviously. He does what he wants, when he wants, says it on his mind. If people don't like it, tough fucking shit. And are you going to ruffle some feathers? Yes, but who cares? And this isn't just being this way to attract women. You're just living your life the way you want to live it. End of story. Do what makes you happy. Putting yourself first. And checking anyone that disrespects you, whatever. I'm sure your dad probably liked Tony. I was 31 years old when I met Stephanie. She was 30 at the time. We met at one of the city parks near my apartment. They have running trails with exercise stations every few hundred feet, and over the years it became my favorite hobby. Hey, working out, exercising. It's amazing what it does for the soul and the body. I run and exercise 4 days a week, usually in the evening after I get off work. It was on one of those days that we happened to be at the same exercise station that I saw her the first time. Other than noticing her, I didn't pay any attention to her, and after my cycle, I hit the trail and finished my workout. Usually when you have a regular schedule, you run across people you previously seen in passing. That was the first time I saw Stephanie. Yeah, either that was your first time there, or you're so focused on your workout that you could care less. Over the next month, I saw her a few more times, but never said anything to her. It was after the 7th or 8th time seeing her that I found myself at the same station that she was at, and she said hello. I glanced at her, said hello, and went back to exercising and ignoring her. I'm sure that chapped her ass because she's probably used to every guy using any opportunity to hit on her, but you're different. What's with this guy? He's not hitting on me? I guess I have to be obsessed with him. Before I finished my cycle, she tried making small talk about the exercise station. See? I wasn't rude, but other than a few short answers, I finished my workout and told her, have a nice day, before heading on to the next station. She's probably, what the fuck? How dare he? After that day, I was seeing her almost every time I went for a run. She picked up on your schedule when you're usually there, and she was showing up when you were. That's what was going on. It was a couple weeks later that she introduced herself and asked my name. We made small talk, and she followed me for the rest of my workout. What is she, a little puppy dog? At the end of the trail, she asked if I wanted to go out sometime, and we made our first date. There you go. See? We went out once a week for 4 months, and when she brought up the idea of dating monogamously. Up until then, we talked about our own histories and our views on relationships. I told her that it was unlikely that I would ever get married, but had no problem with being monogamous. I'm not sure if she thought she could change my mind, but we dated for a little more than 2 years, and I had a great time with her. I guarantee you she thought she could change your mind, especially when you told her you were married before. She's like, I'll change his mind. I think it was around the year and a half mark that she asked if I wanted to move in together, and I could tell she was disappointed when I said no. Good job, bro. Good job. She thought she had you. I like having my own place, and I didn't see any reason to change my life. She also brought up the idea of marriage a few times, but I told her flat out that I wasn't interested in getting married again, and if that was something she wanted for herself, she should probably find someone else. Dude, you have been born again. I'm proud of you. See, guys, it's kind of a way that the earlier we suffer, the better. That we learn reality and how to handle things. Look at this. No, I'm not moving in with you. No, I'm not getting married. But if you want to get married one day, I'm sure you can find somebody else. Probably floored her. She wasn't very happy about that and asked me if I loved her. I said yes, but one thing has nothing to do with the other, and that I was more than willing to be monogamous to her without actually inviting the government into my bedroom. All right, exactly. Believe me, you're a lot easier than our man Tony would be. It was a few months after my 34th birthday when our relationship ended. So, you'll find another chick. We were at her apartment having dinner when she said that she had something she wanted to talk to me about. I thought she was going to say that she wanted to break up, and I guess in a way we did. At first she was asking how I felt about her and our relationship, and I told her that I enjoyed her company and appreciated that she didn't bring a lot of drama into my life. So you thought. She asked me if I would ever reconsider getting married, and I told her sorry, but no. I didn't see any benefit to marriage our relationship didn't already have. Then she gave me a flashback from an earlier time in my life. She said, since I didn't want to get married, that we should try a, wait for it, open relationship so we could have more fun. Isn't that amazing how history can repeat itself, or the universe, if you will throw situations at you to see if you learn something? The second the words came out of her mouth, I knew the relationship was over. And from the stories I read on the internet and my own experiences, I suspected I was already in an open relationship and didn't know it. Very likely. One of the things I've always found frustrating when reading other people's experience is they talk about coming up with rules. But they never say what the rules are. I was curious about how she saw this going. I didn't think she was prepared for the smile I got and told her, sure, it sounds like a great idea. Now, he is obviously saying this because he has something else in mind. So don't think, moron didn't learn anything. Oh, he learned. He's going to have some fun with her. Actually, I'm almost certain that it caught her off guard because she asked me, really? I shrugged and said, sure, why not? How does it work? It's only a guess, but I think she thought she was going to have to convince me. She said that we could come up with some rules so each of us would be comfortable with. I asked her if she had any in mind, and here are the rules she came up with. Yeah, she just pulled them out of her butt right then and there. She had this plan. What I think is going on here is that she wanted to marry you. She wanted to get a husband. Let me put it to you that way. Not necessarily you. She's in her 30s after all. She's going to try this open relationship crap, maybe expecting you to, no. And then, well, you got to put a ring on my finger if you're not going to do that. Or she can do this and keep you around layaway. Meanwhile, monkey branch and find somebody that might want to marry her, but holding on to you just in case. But anyhow, here are her rules. Rule number 1, nobody we work with. Rule number 2, no common friends. Rule number 3, no more than 3 times with the same person. Rule number 4, always use protection to avoid STIs. Rule number 5, we would have a regular day each week dedicated to each other. Oh, how nice. Rule 6, open communication about when we were with other people. And Rule 7, no sharing intimate details. Be like, really? You came up with all that in the last 30 seconds? That was the list she gave me, and it was clear she put a lot of thought into it. That, or there's some website with a template. She asked if I had any rules I wanted to add and thought about it for a few minutes before telling her that her list was just fine. She smiled and asked what day of the week that I wanted to set aside for the two of us, and I said it didn't really matter to me. She had a look of concern for a second and asked if I was sure about the opening of our relationship. I asked her, let me see if I had everything straight. We can go out and sleep with other people as long as it isn't more than 3 times. We can't mess around people we work with or mutual friends. We always need to use protection and have to tell each other when we're going to be with someone else. But no sharing intimate details. Is that everything? And she said yes. I asked her if she was sure she wanted to open the relationship with those rules, and she said only if I do. I smiled and said sure. It should be fun. She asked me again what day of the week I wanted for us, and I thought about it and said there was only one thing that didn't make any sense. She asked what it was, and I asked her, if I can sleep with anyone I want, why do I need you? You probably hear the expression speechless a lot, but that's the only way to describe her reaction. Before she could say anything, I got up, thanked her for her time that we spent together, and wished her well. I was almost to the door when she caught up to me and grabbed my arm, asking me what was going on. I told her that we were over, and I hoped that whomever she was already fucking had a wonderful time before I shrugged her hands off my arm, and walked out. She didn't expect that. I was nearly to my car when she caught up to me again, crying and swearing there wasn't anyone else, and said if I didn't want the open relationship, we didn't have to do it. You called her bluff, and yes, she was hooking up with somebody else. I reminded her that when we started dating, that I was only interested in monogamy, and even knowing my history with my ex, she thought it was a good idea to bring up the topic. Anyway, I wasn't 100% sure if you told her the real details about your marriage, but I guess you kind of would after a couple of years. She knew what happened, and still, she's doing this. I told her that I had no doubt that there was already someone else in the picture, and we were done. I drove off with Stephanie, still trying to get me to talk to her. It took a few months for her to finally give up, and I'm not angry or disappointed. It was clear that marriage was something she wanted, and I don't fault her for wanting it. I liked her, and hopefully she can find somebody to be happy with. I could picture you driving off, and she's chasing after you in the parking lot, or jumping on the windshield, on the hood of the car, and you're driving around. There's Stephanie hanging onto the freaking wiper blades. Bitch, get off the car! That was a couple years ago, and my life's still going along just fine. Of course it is, because you're a new man. I haven't been in any more relationships, but there's always an available distraction for the weekend. I'm not sure what happened with Stephanie since I blocked her and everything when I got home. I truly do hope she found someone to make her happy. I would have spent a lifetime with her, but only if she would have stayed loyal, to each their own. It was back in June of this year that my mom said she ran to Mandy at the store, and they talked for a little while. Why the fuck is your mom talking to that W-H-O-R-E? I guess she's divorced, and my mom said that she has 3 kids with her, and it looks like she put on about 40 pounds. What do you want to bet those 3 kids are from different fathers? And 40 pounds. My mom was laughing when she told me that Mandy asked about me, and when she found out I wasn't in a relationship, she asked for my phone number. What I tell you, once they have a perception of who you are, they think that's who you are forever. My mom told her it was nice to see her again and have a nice day, and walked away without a backward glance. I've had other interesting episodes, but those were my 2 experiences with open relationships and marriage. I'll never let anyone to not get married. I'll never tell anyone to not get married or try an open relationship, but my experiences and pretty much ruled those out as options for me. I'm sure there are some people out there that will think I'm an idiot for dumping Stephanie, or that I was somehow wasting her time, but I disagree. No. She's an adult and she made her own choices. I didn't lead her on, and while I could have simply ended things without playing games, I was curious about what kinds of rules she would come up with. Congrats on your move to Florida. Bro, that's a really good story. And I know it's abrupt ending, guys, but that's how these things end. Great story. Yeah, you made a shitload of mistakes growing up and in your early 20s and marrying that awful piece of crap Mandy. But you know what? The silver lining is you learned hard and you suffered. But now, the rest of your life, you know what I mean, from your mid-20s on up until definitely when you're 30s, that's what it sounded like you really became a new man. And you can thank your buddy, was it Tony or Vince or Vinny or whatever the hell your Italian friend's name is. I know Vinny, Tony, I'm sure is one of them. You can thank him. And I'd like to know how your dad's doing. What does your dad have to say about your life right now and the story of Stephanie? You had to tell him over beers. I'd like to know. But, you know, your dad, put them all together, they helped you out. So, guys, there you go. What have we learned from this story? Don't buy into the romantic bullshit that you see in the movies. Don't, when people are offering you advice, are older than you and lived a life, listen to them. You don't know everything. Because I know I got a younger audience here as well. I know I got people in high school and college and 20s. Listen to them. You may think I'm a jackass because I'm my personality and doing these videos in my car. I'm almost 46 in a couple months. I've been around the block. And these things I'm talking about, and these views I have, these opinions, they're pretty warranted. Based on a lot of experience I haven't begun to share, because I do keep a lot of my life private. And of course, all the stories I've done. So bro, he's learned the hard way, but you know what? He's doing great. And guys, no matter how much you screw up in the past, you can definitely learn from them and go on a different path in life. It's never too late to make a positive change. And just can you imagine he stayed married to these people? He got married to the second girl there. And by the way, he mentioned like wasting her time. No, that wasn't a big deal. He was just having a little fun with her about her rules and all that type of thing. And believe me, nobody's going to have issue with that. So good job, man. And by the way, since this whole Stephanie thing is, I guess, relatively recent, you'll probably hear from her again, guaranteed. And I'm sure down the road, there'll be some other girl that's going to try to lock you down to marriage or stuff like that, you know. But it's so funny how this open relationship thing came around again years later. It's just funny how things like that work out. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let this guy know what you think. Give this guy a shout out for really doing a complete 180, and he's doing well. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.